on bill days, same thing. We're not shooting, but he's just there. And he had this like thing about him where he'd be like, I'm gonna leave that dude alone. Like I'm not gonna talk to that version of Theo. I'm gonna leave that version of Theo alone. It's kind of gross. He kind of like feels like he's gonna lick you or something.
Hi, Oz. My name is Thomas Alanitas. I'm with OneTakeNews. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Thomas. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I saw this movie almost a month ago now, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it. I'm absolutely obsessed with this. I'm absolutely obsessed with your work. I saw
Thank you.
Longlegs in an outdoor theater at 1 in the morning last summer, and that scarred me for months. So I just wanted to
Great.
tell you that. Thank you for
Great.
making fantastic horror movies and fantastic horror comedy movies. This movie is fantastic.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot.
So my first question, what does it feel like to have scarred my generation again with the Jolly Chimp Monkey? First was Toy Story 3, and now with the monkey.
It feels good when I was given the privilege of adapting the material. I was excited from the get-go because that image is so indelible, because it has this sort of uncanny effect on everybody who sees that monkey thing. It's like looking at a ventriloquist doll. There's certain things that are like human but not human. The most gratifying moment on the adventure was we Christian Convery, who plays the twins when they're kids, he had a double who we put in the frame sometimes, and he was kind of new to making movies, and we showed him the monkey prop, and his response was, "Oh, I hate that so much." And when he said I hate it, I was like, amazing, because that's like hate is so much better than fear in a way. It's like so much more like active and visceral. So when he hated it, I felt like we probably had a pretty decent design.
Well, you definitely do, and that's something I love about it. I actually want to talk about the design a little bit. In the original story, instead of a drum, it's cymbals. Were you always going to change it from cymbals to drums, or was there just a point when you were writing this movie when you realized that drums were going to work better for the overall story?
It's funny you mentioned Toy Story. So when I was given the material, the producers were like, "You can do anything you want with it, except it can't be the symbols." And I said, "Why not?" And they said, "Well, Disney owns the symbols. They own
Oh,
the symbols because they use them in Toy Story 3."
well,
And I was
that's
like,
interesting.
"Really?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, but Disney owns so many things. Like Disney owns Star Wars, which is so offensive, but it's true." By the way, I love Disney, love old Disney movies, but the fact that they own everything is just what it is. So it became, well, it could be a drum. And then as you're developing it, you're like, oh, well, the drum has kind of like this percussive quality. Oh, the drum has kind of a rhythm to it. Oh, the drum is like a drum roll. Oh, the drum is like a rim shot. And at a certain point, you get to be like, Disney, you can have your cymbals. I'll take the drum, thanks.
Oh, and it works so much better. I love like the suspense it builds up just when you hear it off screen. It works
Yeah.
incredibly. This is also one of my favorite Stephen King short stories. So I'm curious for you, since you wrote this movie, what's it like adapting a short story that's roughly maybe 20 to 30 pages, give or take, depending on most short stories, but adapting it to feature length? What are some of the challenges that are presented in that?
It's sort of just about finding where you can hold on. Like where's the handle? Like what's the grip? Like what are you gonna sort of perseverate on? What are you gonna focus on? What are you gonna zero in on? And for me, it was less about sort of the scares because we ended up doing a whole kind of we ended up inventing all of the deaths. We ended up inventing the way that these things happen. It was more for me about just the quality of fathers and sons and childhood and finding things in your parents' closets and the mystery of where you come from and pain that sort of has preceded you that you now have to deal with. And those sort of thematically, it became very hooky for me. And then I just settled into like, oh, well, if I can do that and sort of be like sort of not serious, but at least, have an intention, then I can use the deaths as sort of like punchlines. And so the kind of the goal was to create these sort of punchy punchline deaths that could punctuate the themes of the story.
For sure, for sure. And as someone who has a very um, screwed up sense of humor and saying use the deaths as punchlines, I feel like you made it work perfectly. And speaking of the deaths, something I love about this movie is the tagline, everybody dies, and that's fucked up. And that's probably the best way to summarize the movie. But I'm curious, out of all those, well, fucked up deaths, which one were you most excited to bring to life as you were writing it?
I think the diver in the swimming pool always felt like it was going to be a good payoff. It happens in the sort of at the middle as the punchline of an important scene. sort of plot wise and character wise. He's on the phone with his brother for the first time in a long time, and they're kind of beginning their uneasy reconciliation over, like we got to deal with this again. You got to go find the monkey at Aunt Ida's house. And so there's this sort of drama happening, but then there's these other kind of events, the air conditioning and the electricity and the pool and the thing. So that kind of we built up this nice rhythm and then paid it off with a really good effect, which, is we shot a lot of what's called plates, right? So it's like we shot everything practically. So she jumps into the pool for real, then we take her out, then we put someone out there with body parts, throwing body parts to the camera. We cut there, we
And then
show
you
we
over
sew
do like
everything practical, and then we sew it together digitally. So that was a good piece of filmmaking, I think.
Oh, it was, and I want to say since you brought it up, I appreciate as someone who loves the horror genre how practical you were for just about everything in this movie. It shows, and I mean that in the best way possible. It's very
Thanks.
welcome change to what we've seen in the genre the last 15 years. To
Sure.
follow up on that, I'm not sure if it's actually gonna be the same one because of the way you described it, but when you were actually filming it, what was the death where you're like, oh, this is gonna be a lot harder than we thought?
The Hornets was hard because there were no Hornets, right? So like that's the one we did that we obviously can't do practically because you can't tell Hornets how to behave.
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
kind of had to trust a lot that that was going to work out. Uh, First trusting Rowan Campbell, the actor, to perform it with nothing, right? With no co-star. He's performing that in pantomime, and then trusting my VFX team to nail all of that really kind of complex animation, which ultimately it looks really fantastic, and I'm proud of it. But that one was weird just because you're kind of flying blind. Everything is going to be kind of later. You don't get anything on the day.
Oh, for sure. And I think the sound effects as well helped a lot with that. As someone who has like a big fear of like bees, wasps, hornet, that sort of thing,
Oh man, I'm sorry.
like it was an absolute nightmare for me. I'm like looking around because like the theater I saw it in had like really good surround.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolute nightmare fuel for me.
good.
Theo is absolutely fantastic in this movie as Hal and Bill. And I'm curious, as a director, when you were watching him perform as you were shooting, what was the scene that surprised you the most at like how well he brought these twins to life? Is there like a particular moment you remember?
Um, I don't know about a moment. I just like more so that the way he did it, we would sort of we did our best to at least isolate the characters on a different day. So it's like Monday he would only have to do Hal, and then Tuesday he could do Hal again, and then Wednesday he had to do Bill. So at least we tried not to do two characters on the same day.
Mhm.
And what I found that was great was on the days when he was Hal and he would come to set sort of for rehearsal with his coffee or whatever, he had this energy about him where you wanted to kind of put your hand on his shoulder and be like, "Hey man, you okay? You okay, man? You okay?" Even when he wasn't like doing the scene, he was just standing there in his jacket, like come like out of makeup. You all right, man? He had this vibe. And then when he on Bill days, same thing. We're not shooting, but he's just there. And he had this like thing about him where he'd be like, "I'm gonna leave that dude alone. Like I'm not gonna talk to that version of Theo. I'm gonna leave that version of Theo alone." It's kind of gross. He kind of like feels like he's gonna lick you or something. And so just like being with an actor that's so kind of committed, not any kind of an annoying way, just like really present with the part he was doing, that was fun to see.
That's wonderful. And just my last question before I go. I'm very curious because I have my own answer for this one. Is there a fictional set of twins you would like to see grab hold of the monkey and see what they would do with it?
A fictional set of twins?
Yes.
You mean that exist like in fiction?
Yes. So, like, for me, my answer would be like Bart Simpson's twin in the Treehouse of Horror.
That's a
But I'm curious
great
what would it be for
that's a
you?
great answer. I suppose you could say Kubrick's twins in The Shining that would be a pretty probably nasty bloodbath.
Keep it in the Stephen King universe. I like that.
Those girl, even though that movie pisses King off, so I have to sort of split my affection between Kubrick and King on that one because they don't like each other.
Well, at least he likes your movie. He loves it, actually. I've seen all the tweets he's
Love
made
it.
about it. Look, they're pulling me out here. I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to talk to me. Again, I absolutely adore this movie. I cannot wait to see it with the crowd this weekend, and I cannot wait for the inevitable double feature with the new Final Destination movie later this year.
Yeah, of
I think
course,
they're
of
going to
course.
pair really well.
Enjoy, man. Thanks for your
All right.
help.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye bye.